YNA is a podcast that focuses on mental health and other aspects relating to what goes on inside of a person's head. We are by no means professionals in this field and only aim to make these conversations about mental health easier for the listener. Nothing we say or talk about is professional advice unless explicitly mentioned. If you seek professional advice or experience symptoms of an actual mental disorder, please contact a professional or visit your closest center for behavioral health. You are not alone.
What's up, guys? Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're looking for more of our content and merch information, be sure to check us out at ynamentalhealth.org. Keep an eye out for our skits and upcoming episode information. Feel free to reach out to us on IG. Our DMs are always open. And please remember, you're not alone.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of You Are Not Alone. We hope you all are having a beautiful day, and this is going to be kind of a unique podcast. We're going to delve into social anxiety here.
So what social anxiety is social anxiety is the fear of being judged and evaluated negatively by other people, leading to feelings of inadequacy, inferiority, self-consciousness, embarrassment, humiliation, and depression. So that is the exact definition of what social anxiety is. And from my understanding and my research is that it seems like it's a fear of judgment. And when you get thrown into such new situations, let's say new friends are at a new place, totally new group, trying to create conversation and trying to not get in your head is what becomes the difficulty that people face when they're just not sure what to do. And I think the most beautiful thing about this episode, I just wanted to mention to all the people that I asked about their social anxiety, I just wanted to really say thank you for sharing your stories, sharing how you can help people, because I really hope that this podcast kind of sheds light on somebody who has difficulty in understanding how to deal with their social anxiety, whether they have social anxiety or not, and how to know what the symptoms are. So, Will, I know that you've had kind of more of an understanding of what social anxiety is, and the symptoms seem very clear and understanding, but I feel like also with the symptoms, the difficulty that I feel with symptoms, it could be a lot of things. It seems like social anxiety has its hand in other different disorders such as depression. And from my research, it said that social anxiety is the third largest psychological disorder in the country, in the United States, after depression and alcoholism. So I didn't know that. That was a huge fact.
I didn't either.
That was a huge fact for me to understand, that I didn't realize how many people actually deal with this on a regular basis. And I can see the difficulty because when the voices get loud, when it feels like you've lost control, is the conversation that we had. It was like losing control plays such an important part to understanding it, but also creating the negative effect of what social anxiety can truly do to you. Could you kind of go off the symptoms, maybe some things that you felt, maybe some things that you've heard about other people with social anxiety?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I didn't know that it was such like a big disorder, high up on the list, but it's definitely believable. And I think everybody will have their own, like there will be a lot of similarities, but everybody, regardless of if they're similar symptoms or not, will always have their own kind of individual experience with those symptoms and how they're affected. And just like you said, I think other things do play into it. Because when I dealt with social anxiety pretty deeply, I also had generalized anxiety disorder. So it was just anxiety in general. And so that might contribute to more social anxiety later. Depression, I can see absolutely having an impact on that because your thoughts are already so specifically aligned with, you're already feeling, let's say, bad about yourself. And this just would amplify that. And then it's kind of like it'll bounce back off and forth with each other. So you kind of get this, let's just call it social anxiety related issues in your mind, the way that you're thinking, and it will then bounce to depression, then it will bounce back, then it will bounce back and back and back. And, it keeps progressively getting worse, and it's really hard to get out of that cycle. And the idea that I hear the most is people do tense up a lot. Like I would tense up, but I didn't really, it's hard because I'm lost in my thoughts, but I'm also not thinking of anything,
Okay.
So, and I'm sure there's times too where I am like thinking like, okay, this is like different things can happen, but depending on the situation, and I have no idea what causes any specific. I can't say like, oh well, if I'm at a bar, I'm going to feel this way. If I'm at a friend's baseball game, or whatever, I'm going to feel this way. I don't know. It's always different. The symptoms might be the same, but the experience is different.
Okay.
And most of the time, I'm in my head, but I'm also. It feels like I'm in third person view of my situation. I don't know what it's like I'm not me anymore. I don't really know what's going on. So everything else, it seems like if you were looking at me as a different person, not dealing with any issues going on right now, it just looks like you're zoned out.
Okay.
But even I'm zoned out of my zoning out, if that makes sense. Like I don't even know what I'm thinking. I am thinking, but I don't know what I'm thinking. There's just so much like that, what I just said of, it's bouncing back and forth, and it's really hard to get out of this cycle. It's just there's so many things. It's kind of like at the same time over processing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like when a computer's doing too many computations at the same time, it can just crash, and that's like what happens to your your neural cortex. It's just like you don't know what the hell's going on,
Right?
And it can be freaky, and then that even adds more to the social anxiety. So it's like what do I do? What the hell?
Yeah, and that sounds like an extremely difficult situation. Especially, it sounds like when you don't have control of it, and then you're in a completely different situation, and the experience is all different. You could be sitting in a whole different new place and feel something completely new but related at the same time. So I have some symptoms. This is what we found out: being introduced to other people, being teased or criticized, being the center of attention, being watched while doing something, meeting people in authority, important people, most social encounters, especially with strangers, going around the room or in the table and circle and having to say something, interpersonal relationships, whether friendships or romantic. It seems like these are signs of like when social anxiety kicks in. Have any of you guys felt like any of these? Mine would be criticized, being teased or criticized. When you're especially in a group of completely new people, it feels like when you're being criticized by someone brand new, it can really amp up like just not only the feelings that you're feeling in your head, but like the physical feelings. Like everybody has came out and said like increased heartbeat, the what if factor, the questions that popped up, getting clammy, getting tight in places. It seems like for me, that's one of the whole, I could see where my anxiety can kick in. Does anybody else jumping off of any symptoms have felt anything that's like been?
I've definitely felt like when it feels like you are the center of attention and not being prepared for that necessarily. So it's just like all of a sudden all this pressure is on you to either react or to join in on a conversation, which I mean, I feel like podcasting and recording has helped me kind of get out of that shell a little bit, out of my comfort zone. But I could definitely relate to that being a source of making me anxious, or me, my hands getting all clammy, me getting a little bit more nervous, my voice being shaky, just because it's not something that we're just born to do, but it's just something that would definitely onset the uneasiness, that feeling of not being perfect too. I feel like too, if you're like a perfectionist when it comes to like how you handle yourself or how you want to be presented in the public eye, I feel like it even amplifies the pressure a lot more on yourself.
Especially when the spotlight is on you, and a lot of things that have popped up and I've read about when you're in a group and you have to make some sort of conversation or have to say something to continue conversation. It feels like you get like you hit a brick wall right away and you just kind of tense up. And
like, what do I say?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, and I feel like with that too, like you do freeze up into the moment, because I guess what I could say from my personal experience is usually everything that I learned and then how I kind of go about it. I learned everything basically from college, because for me in high school, like I was completely fine. I could say, I guess, with my social anxiety, because I knew basically almost everyone there who I talked to on a daily basis. So I didn't have that fear of wanting to be, I guess, the fear of being accepted by others, because, you're with basically your group every day, the people who you normally hang out with. I guess that when I left for college to my university, everything was a whole brand new experience. You didn't know anybody there. So you try to find a way, to fit in and to feel liked by whoever you meet, So personally for me, I thought my best bet would to go to the rec center or the gym. and basically just go play basketball, try to start up conversation. Didn't know anybody there. And, personally for me, speaking out and, getting everybody's attention, kind of like what you said, Cheyenne, like, you put on the spot, you say, hey, or just things like that, to start conversation. And then for me, that was the hardest because, like, usually I'm kind of, a quiet person, I kind of stick to myself, but I'll talk when I have to talk, but then actually taking the initiative to actually, introduce yourself, get yourself out there was kind of like the hardest thing. So just saying hey to everybody who was there, all eyes are on you, and then for me, like I froze up in the moment because, I didn't really get I didn't expect the response that everybody was looking at me, So then I froze up and, I get my thoughts mixed up and then I just like jumbled a bunch of words together to make sense. So then after that, I just left like 5 minutes later because I thought to myself, oh dang, like I sounded like an idiot, Like I probably came off as like, well, there's people would think to himself as well as like, oh, I came off as weird or awkward, So if they were to see me again, that's the first impression or the first thing they're gonna think of me. Oh, I saw that person this day, he's kind of weird, things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's hard. It's hard. Like don't get me wrong, it's not an easy thing, but I think if you just keep on going and just, just try to like little by little work on yourself or try to overcome those fears, which I know it's not easy like that. For some people it may be easy, but majority of people who feel social anxiety, like, yeah, it's going to be very difficult to overcome.
Oh yeah, and I feel like a big part that helped me get over like situations like you were saying was just being upfront and honest with people about how I was feeling or how I felt, or like I'd be like, oh man, like I felt this way when I did this, and then they'd be like, oh no, I didn't even realize, like I thought it was fine, and then like all of a sudden the barrier that was stopping me from acting a certain way or keeping me kind of like in check with myself is just kind of gone now, because I'm just like, well, if the person that I cared about, like their reaction was reacting this way and they didn't even realize it, why am I worried about it? Because anybody else's input from that point on is just kind of irrelevant to how I should carry myself as a person. So it kind of helped a lot. Just being honest with people, expressing myself however I felt was the right way to express myself, and then it just kind of opened my eyes to just being okay with being myself, and just everybody acts a little bit different, but nobody's always looking at you in such a cynical way, being like, oh, they were like they weren't perfect in this, or like they acted out of line in this, for like in between your guys' conversations. But yeah, that helped me a lot.
And I think change is probably that biggest thing,
Yeah.
right? Because like at least think about it like this: like our school system is kind of set up where we're with the same people from like the second we start going to school, besides like preschool, from like kindergarten to through all the way through high school. You're really realistically with like the same people, the same group of people, and so everybody at the very beginning, when you're young, like super young, and you're learning to be social, you're learning like how society works, yada yada, and then you get into trends and what's the most popular trends and why, and what's the best stuff to wear and why, like it's built into your brain at a very early age, and you never at any point really have to deal with any major change. Because you're always with those same people. You're always with the same changing trends. You know how people are going to react to certain trends because you've been with them your whole life. And based on my research, it seems like late teens and pretty much through the 20s, that's like where the big bulk of people are dealing with social anxiety. And I think the reason for that is, based on what Brandon said, and my own experience, is for the first time after high school, whether you go into college or you go into the workforce, you are for the first time forced to deal with change. And some people don't know how to cope with that in a productive or healthy way, in the sense that, you always want to be in control of situations, but realizing that it's okay to not be in control, that everybody, people think different things, like everybody throughout society isn't exactly the same. That's where the struggle comes in, and dealing with it. Did I just say something stupid? Like, oh shit, is my opinion like wrong? And it's okay to ponder those questions. Like, everybody's changing, even yourself. But I think that's the big part of social anxiety, is like for the first time, once you leave high school, you're now really in the new world of there's new people and new change and new trends, and people react differently to those trends.
And the one thing I want to hop off your idea was, it seems like a bad experience with someone like in the beginning of your life. Let's just go back to like between preschool and high school, and let's just say you express some sort of social anxiety and you get a negative reaction to it. That negative reaction gets implanted into your brain, so that whenever you're in similar situations, your mind goes back to that negative reaction. It's like, oh, wait, but that person reacted that way. And if I say something like this to these people, then they're going to react the same way. And I'm just going to be looked at as this weird, creepy, whatever kind of feelings that you get when you get in your head like that. And so I think another suggestion would be is let those memories that you've had, those bad experiences, let them go, because new people are not going to continuously think like that person did, or these new people that you're going to meet actually want to meet you. Like, this is your opportunity to kind of be, I don't want to say like a new person, but kind of express your ideas and your feelings and your experiences with this new person and not use a negative reaction in the past. And it's hard to let go. I think a lot of us, we hold on to things because we personally feel like if we don't let go, then we're going to lose something, or we're going to go down this path of just negativity. And so learn from those lessons. But at the same time, remember that when you meet someone new, when you're in new situations and new experiences, this is an opportunity for you to blossom. And if you don't blossom, that's perfectly okay. We all are not meant to be perfect and be perfectionists, and not everybody around us is going to agree with what we say, and not everybody around. I think one of the hardest things that was hard for me to understand is everybody you meet, you're never going to please. You're not going to please every single person you meet in your life. And as much as you try, and as much as you try to be this pleasing person, I feel like when you try to be pleasing, it makes it even worse on you, which gives you this experience of negativity.
So this is kind of my way how I went about it, but just want to put a disclaimer out there. This may not work for everybody, as of course everyone's different, but kind of like what helped me get out of the situation of dealing with social anxiety, or like having social anxiety, is I did two things without even thinking about it. It just kind of came naturally. So my first thing was I did yoga for maybe about like a month at my university.
I was baller.
I know, it was the most blessing thing that I've ever encountered. I don't know why I stopped, but that's what I did. So we had a classroom, and basically, like I was always just like, it was from my first experience from when I went into the rec center the very first time, trying to introduce myself to whoever was there, and it kind of froze up and left. Didn't go back until like a week later, I think. And then I saw there was a walk-in class. Anybody could go in. So I tried yoga out to see what that could do. I know it helps with flexibility, but during the time of being there, and like with each stretch and each pose and position that the instructor told us to do, I always had my eyes closed the entire time. And then when each stretch and position that I did, I just kind of try to resemble as each stretch that felt really good was kind of like the releasing energy of my social anxiety, just trying to release that out of my body, whatever was going through my mind, whatever caused me to be this way, just to get it out. So with each stretch is kind of like heat coming off my back, kind of just like evaporating to the air. So that was one thing that really helped me, really helped calm my mind, and kind of like what you said too about meditation. I feel like I was low key doing meditation without even realizing it, because I tried to clear my mind while I was doing it.
There's some good teachers too. Like, usually yoga teachers promote that. It's like,
Yeah.
Close your eyes and release the stress.
Yeah, she had some like I'm gonna call it wavy music. Let's cut that out. But she had some music on there that kind of like, you remember like the Hertz music that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
like
was
tones and whatnot.
Yeah, it was like that. So kind of remind me of that in a way. And it was really good. And then she kind of like dimmed the lights too, and she kind of like closed the blinds, so it was just kind of like a dim
dim lighting.
dim lighting environment. So it was a dim lighting environment, which felt good.
Getting the vibes right.
It was the second thing too, which was completely like out of nowhere. I took a speech class, and I know whoever hears this is kind of thinking like, I cannot get up in front of the stage. I can't talk in front of others. Trust me, I felt the exact same. I did not want to get up whatsoever. But the beauty behind that was that I had this teacher. I can't remember her name, but wonderful teacher. She really helped me through a lot when it came to talking in front of others without having that fear. Because, you're put on the spot. You're the center of attention.
Stage fright.
Stage fright, yeah. It's basically stage fright. So she will give us topics to do. We will talk in front of the class, things into that nature. But we have note cards, bullet points. But then from there, you just had a free flow. Whatever you wanted to say, right? So I skipped on the first two assignments because I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't do it. Like, I would start sweating. I would start stumbling upon my words. I was in straight fear. And then I just went to her office one day and I just told her, like, I can't do this. Like, I may have to drop the class. I can't do it because every time I look in front of others and see the eye stare at me, I freeze up. I'm in shock. Like, I can't. And that, too, like, I wasn't good talking with people or giving out speeches like that, you know. But she told me to just give it a try, just get up there. She's like, no one's going to judge you, things into that. And then to my own self, I'm just like, oh, like, I don't believe that, you know, like, people are still going to judge me regardless or things into that nature, you know. But so then the third time I went up there, it finally happened. I gave my speech out, and of course I stumbled here and there. But then just hearing like the applaud and claps from your classmates, and you know like the smiles on their face too, like good job, things into that. And like right after when I left, you know, they gave me like the fist bumps. And I know like that doesn't really happen, but like that super rare occurrence when you know people were giving like the fist bumps and great speech, things like that, and being really genuine to you. That's what really like brought my confidence up a lot and kind of like shattered the limit breaker or the barrier inside of me to not be so frightened. So like that became my favorite class. So every day when we would go to speech class and give our speeches, like I was excited every time because I love seeing like people's faces, like being so interested in what I had to say. You know what I mean? So I would try speech class if you really want to try it, test yourself, test yourself to get out of there, get that limit breaker in, you know what I mean? So, I mean, like I said, it's a disclaimer. This may not work for everybody, but it's at least an attempt to try and get out of that feeling,
Especially if it's directly related to standing up in front of people and talking.
Exactly. And then, like, it is the best feeling ever, too, because once you leave the class, like, for me, when I left, like, I felt I could just go up to anyone and just talk to them now because, like, I had that confidence boost. And so pretty much I did do that, like, I try to go talk to, like, random people, things into that. And then, like, slowly, I was slowly fitting in because I didn't have, like, those thoughts of what do I say next, how to continue conversation without thinking what I say first, then saying it, because I noticed that also, like, kind of, like, led to my not really a downfall, but kind of like helped me like stutter or help me stutter or just didn't know what to say as well. So I would recommend trying those out if you would like to.
Yeah. And I feel like every environment is different and not every environment is good for you. And I realized growing up is just kind of coming to the realization that sometimes you need to separate yourself from toxic environments, go to more healthy ones, interact in more healthier ways. And like Sina said, you're not going to please everybody you run into.
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's honestly exhausting when you try to please everyone because then you tend to lose yourself. And then once you try to, please everybody, then once you get back home or wherever you go to, you're just mentally drained. Not only does that take a toll on your own mental health, but pretty much you just lose yourself. Pretty much you're lost in the sauce pretty much there.
Yeah.
Because then the next day you're going to keep on going out and keep on trying to please others just to come off as, as a great person, things like that. And don't get me wrong, like, it's okay to, please people, come off genuine, things like that. But then kind of like what Sina and Shine said, like, if you try to do it for everybody, then yeah, it's going to eventually, you're just going to crash.
Oh, yeah, it takes a toll. Living for other people takes a toll on your mental health. And it all transfers over. Physically, you'll be tired too. It's exhausting.
And you start pondering in your own mind, be like, why can I be liked, or whatever the situation may be, like, why can I be liked, or why do people, view me as this or that way, like I'm being nice, like how come I'm not getting the same reciprocal energy back from them, what am I doing wrong? So then, yeah, it's just mentally and physically draining.
And it feels like when you attack yourself, like that's when it becomes like your mind against you. Like your mind is a great thing, but at the same time, it could be. I told one of my friends this. I was like, your mind can be your best friend, but at the same time, it can also be your worst enemy because it knows your secrets. It knows exactly what you're thinking. It knows how to boil your blood at any point of time. It knows how to increase your heart rate. It's difficult to separate yourself from the voices in your head or your mind being against you. But always remember and I know this is extremely hard to do, and I know that not everybody can do it, and it's going to take time. With everything comes practice, but be yourself. Truly be yourself. Be who you know you are. And if you don't know who you are, that's perfectly okay. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly what we are at all times, but that's what's the beauty of life. You get to experience and find out who you are and what you want to do and what your thoughts can be, and having positive thoughts against negative thoughts. And I get it. Negative thoughts are stronger than positive thoughts, But again, the more positive thoughts that you can have in your mind, then tell yourself, yeah, and I think that person and I really got along. I think that person and I had a great conversation. I don't think that that person is criticizing me or thinks these things about me. Just, you got to focus on being yourself, and people will love that. And if they don't love that, then, as I like to say, fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck those people.
Yeah.
Fuck
And
not your
those
friends,
people
man.
are not meant to be in your life.
And not everyone who comes into your life is meant to be in your life. They're just coming into your journey, and your paths cross, and your intersection. Like some things just don't work out. And I've realized when things don't work out, it's for the better, you know?
Yeah. You can't always force the good in other people, and sometimes you just gotta work past it, especially if you want to be on the path to self-improvement.
And that's what we try to promote here is self-improvement, self-awareness, understanding who you are, who you're going to become. Whoever is listening, I know whatever you're dealing with is tough. And I know that I can't sit here and completely understand exactly what you're going through. But what I can do is I can share some tips, some advice, some things that we have personally gone through. And my goal is for you to be the best person that you can be. And I know for a fact that if you're not living that right now, and that's okay, take your time. There's no rush in life. There's no race. Like it's a race. It's not a race at all. Just love yourself. Love who you're becoming. Take the time for yourself. Take the time to learn about yourself. And I think that's the hardest part is how do I learn to become who I want to be?
And also for people who don't struggle with this, or whatever episode we're on, talking about whatever specific topic, you can take this as like, how can I understand somebody who is, maybe I have a friend who's dealing with this. Yeah, or, maybe you're just listening because, hey, we're cool. You like YNA. We're ballers.
Oh, yeah. Either or.
So we asked a couple people 3 questions. The first question is, what situations bring on social anxiety disorder? Somebody's response is, that's the crazy thing, is there isn't any specific situation that can bring on social anxiety. It can come on at any moment. It could be you're going out with friends to do an activity that everyone in the group is good at. Here, the person gives an example. And so maybe I just happened to suck at it and they went to Topgolf, so you almost exclude yourself from playing even though it's all fun and games. You're really only ruining your own fun, or say you didn't know someone who was bringing a new friend that you didn't know to be hanging out with. The new person doesn't give off good vibes, even though it might be a regular friend group. Because of the off vibes, I feel like I'm out of place or I don't belong in that moment, or that I'm eventually going to get kicked out and replaced by my own friend group. So it seemed like in the situation, new person comes in and you're not good at what you're doing. And so you personally feel like that person can take your spot. And so that's where the mind goes into control and tries to take over a situation. And you get into this whole creative, imaginary situation where you start believing what your mind is saying that, hey, what happens if this happens? What happens if this happens? What happens if this happens? And that's like the what if effect, where your mind kind of just takes all of these visions and all of these ideas and just runs with it really quickly, which then starts heightening your anxiety. So those are some situations, and situations can all change. Like the person said, like it can be at any different time, at any different moment. Someone else said that situations that bring on my social anxiety are when people bring up topics about me that I'm not prepared to talk about, or if I'm in a room with people I have negative affiliations with the past. Again, it's like you're in a completely new space, out of your comfort zone, and you have to interact. And so you feel as if you are just have no idea what to do. And so those are things that can cause and make you feel like what social anxiety feels like in those kind of very difficult situations. So how do we handle those situations? How do we be able to have the conversation with yourself, because maybe you don't want to share to a whole new group of people that you have social anxiety. Like how do we overcome that?
I would just say stepping out of your comfort zone, really just letting yourself be vulnerable instead of letting yourself be a victim in a situation.
Right.
I feel like that would really help. And we also asked, what does your social anxiety feel like? And they said, the symptoms and their intensity can differ depending on the situation, but most of the time I'll feel hot, my whole body temperature rises, which causes me to sweat, and I hate that. This is also why I'm very picky about wearing anything long sleeve, because I don't want to have any sweat stains. I would find that embarrassing. Also, my hands sweat, which makes any situation where I would have to shake somebody's hand or hold their hand more anxiety producing. For example, I work an event where you are introducing yourself or holding somebody's hand on a date. These are situations where this can arise. And also, an increased heart rate. Sometimes I feel dizzy and nauseous, which this combined with feeling hot is not fun at all. I've had moments where I genuinely thought I was going to pass out because I had so much anxiety. Yet, to an outsider looking in, all they see is a girl having lunch with her friends.
And to jump off of that, another person said that the tightness in my upper thighs, feeling accelerated heart rate, and the constant scanning of the room. It seems like a lot of the symptoms are increased heart rate, nauseousness, tightening of different parts of the body, and constant scanning of room, and having issues with breathing. And so these are just some, again, everybody feels something completely different, but it seems like these are the main points that everybody came back to. So the one way that somebody fixed their increased heart rate in the shakes was the absolute best thing you can do for yourself is understand that your body will calm down on its own. And then just let it do its thing. If it's causing you jitters, let it. If your thoughts are kind of racing, let them race. But don't react. Don't try to force your symptoms to stop because then your conscious worry about them. Don't try to force your symptoms to stop because then your conscious worrying about them will actually cause them to strengthen. And this was a really good point. When you start worrying about what you're feeling, it causes your body to go in this kind of whirlwind that you get sucked in, and then your symptoms become even worse. What your body is doing is it's reacting to the situation that you've created in your mind. And with you reacting on top of the reaction, it's just going to cause it to make it worse. And so a good tip is the second you start feeling some sort of way, let's just say you feel your hands are getting sweaty, you feel the jitters, you feel the increased heart rate, take a second, let the thoughts race. Don't question the thoughts. Don't point fingers at them and be like, oh, wait, what about this thought? Or, oh my God, my hands are getting calm, my hands are getting sweaty. It's just going to get worse. It's just going to be this continuous whirlwind of getting sucked in, and you're just going to continuously get, like, your anxiety is just going to keep racing at a higher level. So maybe stop yourself and be like, wait, hold on. Okay, let's let everything happen. Let your body react because your body needs to calm down at one point. Your body will calm down at one point. And once it calms down, you'll be able to react better. And of course, you're not going to be able to get this on the first try. Nobody does. Clearly, with anxiety, it comes with practice. It comes with continuously giving these kind of situations a hold up, wait a minute, I can get better. I'm going to get better. I'm not going to let this affect me.
I used to think that since my symptoms weren't the typical anxiety symptoms, that I was being dramatic and was not actually experiencing social anxiety. My other advice is to tell the person that you're with having social anxiety, whether it's at the bars with your best friend, and feeling really uneasy. We can pretty much tell them that. It allows to get it off your chest and to let them know what's going on in case you seem dissociated. It also gives them the opportunity to provide you with support and comfort.
So jumping off of that, that's communication. It's communicating how you're feeling with the person that you're right next to. It allows you to not only open up, but share what you're feeling with somebody else and kind of not release the burden, but kind of take the weight off. And if this is just somebody who's your best friend, they should understand what you're going through and kind of help you ease you through it. And that's perfect. I think that was one of the most eye-opening advice giving, was to kind of tell people, communicate. It's okay to communicate. It's great to communicate. And especially when you're in a situation where you're feeling uneasy, it's something that can really help you kind of calm down and relax. And we as people, when we think things, it's much easier for us to kind of go into this whirlwind. But when we say things and we listen to ourselves talking and saying what we're feeling, your body actually kind of gets an understanding and kind of like, wait, hold up. Maybe I am just overreacting. Maybe my mind is just racing too much. Maybe now that I've shared this with somebody, I kind of get an understanding of what I'm feeling. So communication, very important when it comes to feeling these kind of feelings.
And you might not get the response that you're expecting, but that could be a couple things. But I think the main thing would be if somebody's has never dealt with it, they have no idea how to like process what you just told them. Like they've never felt that way before. So there's also a burden on you to help them understand, because in the end, again, communication, it goes both ways.
And the one thing that also comes off of it, to the person who is listening to the other person who's talking about their social anxiety, how do you get a grasp of what they're saying and trying to understand what they're feeling is maybe ask them a couple questions. Maybe say, hey, so what's making you feel uneasy right now? What are you telling yourself? Because when you start asking the person questions and they start talking more and start communicating a little bit better, they're going to be able to get an understanding of how to communicate with you and how to help you. So don't get closed off in the situation and be like, I don't know what to do. Because, I mean, clearly we've all been in the situation where someone tries to communicate something with us. We don't understand or can't understand what they're trying to say to us. This is your opportunity to kind of get an understanding of how can I help my friend feel better in this situation. And if it is like, hey, maybe we should leave this bar. Hey, maybe we should go do something else. Kind of get their minds off of what's going on in the moment and kind of push their mind into a different direction. Because when the mind is stuck in its pattern, the best way too is kind of distract it with something else. Kind of give it a new opportunity to feel and calm down in its kind of situation. So as a person who's listening and wants to help their friend with social anxiety, people will communicate with you what they need. But all you have to do is listen. And not just listen, but genuinely listen to them. That's where it becomes important.
Yeah, that's very well said.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. No, I'm just kidding. I kind of want to take this opportunity to kind of give my own experience. And I might rant a little bit, but I really want to reach the minds of the people who are asking, okay, I know what this is. I know how it feels, but what can I do about it? How can I fix myself and overcome this social anxiety? And there's things or topics, rather, I think all of us on YNA, we kind of deal with specifically more than other topics that we cover, right? And for me, social anxiety is something that I dealt with really hard and continue to improve on, and so much so that it's a lot better now. I still have it, but it was bad. But I want to kind of give my thoughts on what actually I went through, or what newly developed method of thinking that helped me really change the way that I thought about social anxiety, which led to me being able to overcome it to a major degree. And this is just to give the listeners hopefully new ideas, and you can take what you need to apply to yourself and in your own situation. So bear with me here. But in a more philosophical sense, to me, social anxiety is a product of our attachment to the idea of ourselves as separate and isolated individuals. We become fixated on just mainly the opinions and the perceptions of others, and we fear this rejection and judgment that comes from that. But in reality, we're all interconnected. We're all interdependent, and our sense of self is fully fluid and ever changing. And because of that, you're not actually defined as anything. You yourself are always changing. For me, what helped me overcome social anxiety, or a good way to look at it rather, is to let go of your attachment of the ego. And, we've talked a lot about on this podcast about like the ego. We have podcast episodes on it. And, you learn to see yourself as part of this larger whole. You learn to accept and embrace all parts about yourself, the good, the bad, the everything, and recognize that you're not defined by others' opinions of you. You're not even defined by your own opinions of you. And this is difficult to understand and actually more so put into practice. But I would rather say, especially if you have never dealt with this, or gone through these thoughts, or being in that mindset before of being able to say, okay, how am I going to improve, or going through this improvement process. But again, just like Sina said before, with practice and patience, you can develop this attitude of non-attachment, or the idea that you're always changing. And that's okay. You're not actually defined as anything. You eventually learn to find this peace with yourself and contentment for yourself, regardless of whatever external validation you think you need. So I would also encourage anyone dealing with social anxiety, or anxiety in general, really, to embrace this concept of impermanence and the fluidity of your own self-concepts, and to practice mindfulness and presence in the present moment. A short answer for all this is focus on the present. Let go of the past, let go of the future. None of that matters in the present moment. And we expanded upon that. It's, what am I worried about? You're worried about the past or the future. If that is out of your head, there's nothing to be worried about. And just mainly to let go of the need to control all outcomes and all outcomes of each individual social interaction. And the reason I like philosophical approaches to questions like this, and situations in general, is because mainly it's the open-endedness of these questions, and that, for me, it does a couple things. And I'll try to phrase them specifically for social anxiety. But the first is enabling critical thinking, because there's no defined answer that encourages this deep thinking in individuals with anxiety in general that they might deal with. But it shows you that this is okay to do. Critical thinking is good. And lots of people don't like to do that, right? Lots of people don't like to actually take in these negative thoughts and expand upon them in their own brain, because people who deal with social anxiety, that's what starts the cycle, and it gets worse and worse and worse. But there's a different way of thinking about it. You just get in your head too much, but it's okay to do. And secondly, this way of thinking kind of, in my opinion, subconsciously affects other areas of your thinking and bleeds into other parts of your life and situations, to the sense that there is no defined answer. Everybody's question that you have in your own head, it's going to be different. And that's what these open-ended philosophical questions did for me. But with social anxiety, in my situation specifically, I always wanted to be in control of everything. The lack of control and the lack of controlled thoughts is what made it worse than it really sounds or feels like. And again, it just spirals worse and worse. And now I think I'm ranting a little bit, so I'll try to finish up. But thinking like this helped me personally. And it's okay to not be in control. But even to go further, I think you can even say, I don't even think it's possible to be in control of everything. There's so many, how can you be in control of a situation that has so many possible answers, so many possible outcomes, so many possible other players involved? What it means to be human isn't to control everything. We would always have the same planned and expected results in the end. Every experience would be the same. And is that something you'd really want?
What you're trying to say also is, when you're trying to become over control over something, you actually end up overthinking, and then you're trying to over control, which is going to cause you into another spiral. Trying to control everything just makes you overthink and gives you anxiety, which causes a whole more anxiety than you need. So just allow things to be. Like my therapist always says, stop trying to control the things you can't control and control the things that you can. Because that's what life is. You can't control every single thing that gets thrown into your moment.
Yeah, that perfectly sums it up. And honestly, this is probably the most important thing that I'll say, is by accepting that you have social anxiety, you can learn to observe and understand your thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. In this process of understanding your thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them is the first step, really, in overcoming not just social anxiety, but anything. Just because you feel a certain way, it's just a feeling. It's an experience. It's a good thing. If there was no bad experiences, then how would you have good experiences? What do you relate good experiences to? It's kind of like, I heard an analogy one time. It was just like the heartbeat monitor goes up and down, up and down. If it was always just stable, well, you're dead, but also nothing's changing. What would be the point of life? Experience is the point, whether it's good or bad. Bad experiences suck at the time, but it teaches you. It's part of the human. Fuck, what is that word?
Human nature?
Human condition. It's part of the human condition. It's part of being human, is to have the experience. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. The experience is the goal. It's not to have good experiences. It is to have an experience.
I believe it's also your mindset. What you can think that your feelings are bad, but that's just a mindset. If you think that all feelings are feelings and allow them to just be created through your mind, that's the one beautiful thing about being human. Like these things that we're talking about, it's just another part of being human. If you didn't feel, then you would not be human, and that doesn't sound very fulfilling in life.
Yeah, I encourage you to everybody listening to practice mindfulness and even meditation. We have episodes of meditation, how to do it, what it means, but that probably itself really helped.
And the one last thing to jump off of is another idea that I found. It seemed like there's a lot of treatments, of course, counseling, medication, but there was one that really popped up to me that I researched into was how to build courage. Because when you're in difficult situations, when you need to express how you're feeling, you need to be courageous. You need to go against your mind. You need to push it to not think those ways. So I'm just going to give some quick tips on how to build courage. Create good scenarios in your mind. Recognize the negative bias. Practice going out of your comfort zone. Manage your body and understand what's going on in your head. And recognize that you are not alone. When I saw that...
God damn! Wait, did you make that up? Or
no, I saw that.
That's just not a thing.
It was just it was an advice, and
yeah, that's fucking baller. I wonder if they listen to our stuff, man.
Man, I hope they do. I truly hope they do. But coming to an end of it, I really hope that if you are struggling with whatever you're struggling with, please, please, please remember, you are not alone. We really appreciate you being alive. The world's a better place with you in it. And if you personally would love to support the podcast, we do have merch. We do have a YouTube channel. We have a Facebook channel. We have an Instagram channel. Feel free to DM us if you're ever feeling some sort of way or just want to share your story. We're always here for you. Our DMs are always open. We'll try our best to respond to help you feel the best that you can feel.
Mm-hmm. And a big thank you to the people who did share their stories with us on this topic. We really appreciate you being a part of our community.
Thank you so much. Your stories are going to help so many people. I mean, it's helped me understand what social anxiety is, and I can't be more thankful than that.
Yeah, you're beautiful, and I love you.
Just like Will said. Catch you on the next episode.
See you guys.
See you guys.